There were strong denunciations in Canada today to a decision south of the border. Yesterday, the U.S. Commerce Department imposed a 220% duty on C-Series aircraft built by Quebec's Bombardier, a move that could have a big impact on jobs here. Here's Alison Northcott with the details.
It's a major blow for Bombardier. Quebec's premier called the U.S. decision arrogant and unfair.
Boeing may have won a battle, but let me tell you that the war is far from over and that we shall win.
The province invested more than $1 billion in Bombardier's C-Series program. Competitor Boeing accused the company of benefiting from what it calls illegal government subsidies. It says that allowed Bombardier to sell planes to Delta at rock-bottom prices. In a preliminary decision, the U.S. Commerce Department agreed.
The giant, itself created, fed by decades of government support in the U.S., has decided to eliminate a competitor that makes better products.
Bombardier says it's too early to say if this will lead to job losses here in Canada or in the U.S., where some C-Series parts are manufactured.
What Boeing tried to do is literally to kill the competition and to shut the American market to the C-Series. And of course, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for the aerospace industry in Canada. It's not a good thing also for the aerospace industry in the United States.
Outside Bombardier's Montreal plant, workers are anxious. We'll see in time, he says, but we adjust to everything. We have no choice. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also wants to protect those workers.
Obviously, we're disappointed by the decision, and I will continue to fight hard for good Canadian jobs.
But even with provincial and federal governments fighting for Bombardier, this analyst says the company still faces the possibility of losing the lucrative U.S. market.
They're really forced now, in my view, to focus on Europe and China, both big markets, but nobody wants to write off the United States.
This is a preliminary decision, and it could be years before there's a final one. Boeing will have to prove it was hurt by unfair competition, and many say that will be an uphill battle. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Well, they are talking tough, but the Trudeau government has said nothing about retaliating after Bombardier was dealt a potential body blow by the United States today.
The U.S. Department of Commerce is proposing a massive levy on Bombardier's C-Series jet. It insists the Canadian company received an unfair advantage as it tries to sell the plane south of the border. CTV's Vanessa Lee reports.
Described as the heart of Canada's aerospace industry, Bombardier is a vital part of Quebec's economy, and it is being hit in an unfair, arrogant way, says Premier Philippe Couillard. He is vowing to fight back.
Boeing may have won a battle, but let me tell you that the war is far from over and that we shall win.
Boeing has scored a major victory after Washington's decision to impose a steep 220% duty on Bombardier's new C-Series jets. The rival had complained government subsidies allowed Bombardier to dump jets onto the U.S. market, selling them below cost to Delta Airlines. Couillard says the $1 billion invested by the province was not a subsidy, adding he doesn't believe that is the issue.
We are hit because a giant, itself created, fed by decades of government support in the U.S., has decided to eliminate a competitor that makes better products.
Obviously, we're disappointed by the decision, and I will continue to fight hard for good Canadian jobs.
Today, there is anxiety at the plant where C-Series aircraft components are being made.
Tense. Pretty much tense.
Workers are worried about the future of the project and their jobs. Premier Philippe Couillard is calling on Ottawa to take a hard line against Boeing. He says no Boeing planes or parts should be allowed in Canada until the dispute is resolved. The federal government's plans to purchase Hornet fighter jets is already on hold. Vanessa Lee, CTV News, Montreal.
Senior government officials on both sides of the border admit the U.S. decision on Bombardier has strained relations. But Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland insists they managed to make some progress today on NAFTA as round 3 of the talks wrapped up in Ottawa.
These have been a very productive past 5 days. Our negotiators met across 28 tables, and they were working to identify and consolidate common ground.
All sides acknowledge much work still needs to be done if they have any hope of finishing the talks by the end of the year as planned. The next round begins in Washington on October 11th.